Today is the 9th of Tishrei. We are continuing in chapter 135, discussing the laws of living in a sukkah. Today we'll be doing paragraphs 13 through the end of the chapter, which is paragraph 22. Paragraph 13. Let's say you start a meal in your own sukkah. So you sit down, you say Hamotzi, the blessing on the bread, you then make the blessing thanking God for the mitzvah of sukkah, the blessing of leishev, and then in the middle of the meal you go to a different sukkah, you go to a neighbor's sukkah, and you continue your meal over there. Since you're now in a new sukkah, you have to make that blessing of thanking God for being in a sukkah, the blessing of leishev, a second time in the second sukkah. Paragraph 14. Let's say in the middle of a meal you realize, oh my goodness, I forgot to make that blessing of leishev. So you should make it when you remember. Even if you said the after blessing, Bircha Hamazon, and you're sitting in the sukkah and you're schmoozing, you're just spending time hanging out in the sukkah, and you realize, oh, in the beginning of my meal that I just finished a few minutes ago, I never made that blessing of leishev, you should make it now because sitting in a sukkah also is part of the mitzvah of living in a sukkah. We wouldn't make a blessing exclusively for that, but since you just finished the meal, you can make the blessing now as well. Paragraph 15. All mitzvahs could be split into two categories. The first one is positive mitzvahs, mitzvahs to do something. For example, give charity, put on tefillin. Those are positive mitzvahs to do something. Then there are negative mitzvahs. Don't eat on Yom Kippur. Don't eat non-kosher food. Those are negative mitzvahs. Ladies are exempt from positive mitzvahs that are time-bound. So for example, tefillin, it's a positive mitzvah. You should do something. However, it's time-bound. It only applies during the daytime hours, not the nighttime hours. So ladies are not obligated to put on tefillin. Sukkah as well is a positive mitzvah. Sit in a sukkah. Live in a sukkah. That's a positive mitzvah, an action, doing an action. And it's time-bound. It only applies for 7 days. So really, ladies, all the different rules we talked about of if you have to be in a sukkah, that you don't have to be in a sukkah, that only applies to men, not to ladies. Ladies can eat anything they want, wherever they want, no problem. No sukkah is needed. However, if they do eat in a sukkah, they still do get a mitzvah. And therefore, they should make a leishev, the blessing, thanking God for the mitzvah of eating in a sukkah, if they are eating in a sukkah. Children should also be taught to eat in a sukkah, and even though they are not biblically obligated to eat in a sukkah, they still should make a blessing of leishev sukkah before they eat in a sukkah. Paragraph 16. If somebody is ill, that person does not have to eat in a sukkah. Not only that, but if he has somebody attending to him, the attendant also does not have to eat in the sukkah, as long as he's involved in taking care of the ill person. When he's off duty, then he would have to eat in the sukkah once more. This is due to the concept of osik b'mitzvah patur min mitzvah, that when we have conflicting mitzvahs and I can't do two at once, if I'm involved in one mitzvah, it exempts me from doing the second mitzvah. Don't apply this by yourself. If you have a situation where you think this applies, then speak to a halachic authority. Paragraph 17. If one is in pain, is in distress and discomfort for whatever reason, then they are exempt from the sukkah. Now the discomfort has to be related to the sukkah. So some examples that the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch brings down is if it's cold outside, if there's some foul odor in the sukkah, if it's nighttime and the light went out for some reason. These are all reasons that would make it hard, distressing to sit in the sukkah or to eat in the sukkah, to spend time in the sukkah, and therefore one is exempt from doing so. And the reason being is that just like in your house, if your house was very cold, you go to a different part of your house which is warmer, then the same thing, you're supposed to live in the sukkah in the way that you live in your house. If you would leave your house or that part of the house, that also is the reason that you can leave your sukkah. If your neighbor has a sukkah which doesn't have those distressing aspects of it, and he doesn't mind if you join him by his meals, and of course, that is a great thing to do. Also keep in mind that we already talked about earlier that the first night of Sukkot, even if it's raining, it's cold, you got to make sure the first 2 nights of Sukkot to eat at least a small amount of bread in the sukkah. Paragraph 18. If someone is on a trip, they're traveling, and they're not just traveling for pleasure, it's something that they need to take care of, business or whatever it's going to be, it's not just a pleasure trip, then while they're traveling, presumably during the daytime, they are exempt from eating in a sukkah. However, at nighttime when they're resting, now they have to eat in a sukkah or sleep and eat in a sukkah because they're not busy with the travel anymore. If somebody is traveling at night as well, then also at night they would be exempt from eating or sleeping in a sukkah. Paragraph 19. What about, so far, the previous paragraph was talking about somebody who's traveling for business, a pressing need, but it wasn't mitzvah related. And now, says the Tishrei Aruch, let's say somebody's traveling to do a mitzvah, possibly to raise funds for some charity organization or some other mitzvah cause. In this case, even if they're only traveling by day, if it's hard for them to find a sukkah at night, because their whole point of travel is mitzvah related, they're exempt from sleeping in a sukkah at night if it's hard to find one. Paragraph 20. If somebody is a guard over a field, a watchman, they're making sure that no thieves take the food from the field or the orchard, then if they're able to stay in one spot and see the whole field that they're responsible for, then great, build a sukkah in the spot and hang out. They can eat there, stay in the sukkah, and watch the fields, guard the fields at the same time. However, if they have to walk around and inspect different fields, it's a big property, they can't stay in one place, then they would be exempt from eating in a sukkah. Paragraph 21. If somebody is the overseeing rabbi for a kosher supervision organization in a wine factory, then they're fully exempt from being in a sukkah because they have to really be on their guard. Because we're not going to get into it now, but for technical reasons, if a non-Jewish person would touch any part of the wine before the production is completed, that can make the entire run of wine not kosher. So the supervising rabbi has to really be on his guard, fully focused, and therefore he's exempt from sukkah. However, if he's able to lock up the factory and therefore go to a sukkah, that of course is preferable and what he should be doing. Paragraph 22. The Tishrei Aruch talks about a case where somebody lives outside the city, but they spend a lot of time in the city running a store. So generally during the year, this store during the daytime becomes like their home. That's where they're eating, that's where they're spending their time. And therefore says the Tishrei Aruch that they should have a sukkah by the store that they could, when they're taking lunch break, they go into the sukkah and eat in the sukkah. This concludes today's learning. Have a wonderful day and see you tomorrow.